Howdy, folks. I'm Radiant Rapunzel, regally relishing river rides.
How's it hanging? I'm David Pumpkins.
And she's here to scare the hell out of you. Oh, and folks, we have a live stream
A live scream.
coming up on Friday. For more information, please see the end of the video. Let's get started. Alright, folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Telling My Mom That It Wasn't Cute or Funny to Dress Me as a Hot Dog instead of a Princess? So there's this new Target commercial going around where a little girl dresses as a hot dog, and it came on while my family was watching a scary movie. I'm a 20-year-old female, and I'm home from college for the weekend, and I brought my boyfriend, and my mother, a 57-year-old female, decided it would be hilarious to mention that she made me a hot dog costume as a kid, except the way she told the story was that it was my request. She said that all the girls wanted to be Disney princesses, but I had asked to be a hot dog, and so she had gone out of her way to make me a hot dog costume. This is not what happened at all, and I said as much. What actually happened is that I wanted to be Snow White, and I told everyone, including the teachers, that I was going to be Snow White. I was obsessed with that movie as a kid, to the point where I would actually get invested in doing chores because I was cleaning just like Snow White. My dad and I would watch the movie all the time, and I was very excited to be Snow White for Halloween, especially because my ballet studio was doing a special princess dance for Halloween, and we had all signed up for special princess slots. And I had shown up early with my dad the week before so that I could be Snow White. My mother decided that she wanted to be quirky and that Snow White was a bad role model after I got in trouble for trying to cook dinner for my family. I was about 8 and I tried to make hot dogs like how she made food for the dwarves in the movie. And I made a mess. My mom surprised me on the day of with a pretty terrible hot dog suit and told me that if I didn't wear it, she would never let me watch Snow White again. She took millions of pictures and the other girls teased me for months, and it was one of the most humiliating moments in my childhood. I told the real story and I mentioned that I got through the day by pretending that she was the evil queen, making me dress in rags, but the rags happened to be a garbage meat suit. She got really quiet after that, and after we left, my brother says that she was crying and looking at the pictures from Halloween. I didn't want to make my mom cry, but it's a terrible memory for me, and it felt like she was trying to humiliate me all over again in front of my boyfriend. All right, folks, what do you think of this?
Definitely not the jerk. She deserves to be told the truth. It seems like she's made up this narrative in her mind where, she was just helping her daughter be a unique individual, but in reality, she was bullying and controlling her daughter.
Yeah. Now, I do want to mention in the comments, basically, OP theorizes that because her mother was kind of ultra-feminist, and...
Well, she was not really ultra-feminist. She was not like the other girls type of faux feminism.
Well, I mean, in some of the comments, other ones that you didn't get to see, she was, more on the feminist type of side, right? And her idea of feminism is that you can't wear girly type stuff, and she would discourage OP from that. So I think that it's unfortunate because that's not really what feminism is about.
No, it's that not like the other girls mentality.
Yeah.
There's an unfortunate group of people who just, think everything masculine is superior and are like, we're going to make girls be like boys instead of letting everyone be their own unique individuals.
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing is that feminism is about letting people be equal. All people, right? It doesn't matter, of gender or whatever, that you are an equal to other people and have equal rights, assuming that you're not in jail and stuff like that, right? I mean, there are certain places where you have rights that are, of course, reduced, but equality for people in general, right?
Well, and wearing Halloween costumes, anyone should be able to dress as, whatever costume they want to.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there are arguments on both sides for Snow White, but I don't think there's any harm in letting kids watch Snow White and enjoy Snow White, wear a Snow White costume. And if you're worried about the message it sends, it's a good idea to sit down with your kids and have conversations with them.
Yeah. Well, I think a conversation is far more powerful than trying to forbid your child from doing girly things, right? Because by denying them the ability to do girly things, all you're saying is that, look, girly things are bad, right? And they're inherently bad and you shouldn't do them, which I think is actually an anti-feminist message.
It is, like, and there's nothing wrong with being kind to people and, doing housework and stuff like that. But it's important to let people know that that's not their only option, you know? So I think it's important that kids of all genders be, encouraged to pursue what makes them happy and to, recognize the value in all types of work.
Yeah, exactly. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Continuing to Use a Phrase When Addressing My Kids Despite My Husband Not Liking It? And Amber wants to read this one.
I'm a 38-year-old female and I have 4 young kids with my husband who's a 40-year-old male. They are 5 years old, 4-year-old twins, and a 1-year-old. Our kids are well behaved in general. Anyone with young kids can confirm sometimes they have tantrums or get upset. Sometimes it's over big things and sometimes it's over something silly. For example, our 5-year-old was upset this morning because his shoes weren't blue. They have never been blue. They've always been green. Today, I guess he just felt like having blue shoes. A phrase I use when calming my kids down over the smaller issues is, "What's the story, macaroni?" They love it when I say this, even when they are fussy or upset. I'm not sure why, but maybe it's just as simple as they think I see them as macaroni. Maybe it's the silliness of it. I can't remember where I heard it. It's effective. It helps them work through their emotions so we can work on communicating why we're upset and what we can do to fix it. For those wondering, in my 5-year-old's case, the solution was letting him put stickers on his shoes. All is well again. My husband hates it when I say it. He has asked me several times not to say it because to him it sounds too childish. His approach is more strict and he doesn't take the more kid-friendly approach. He would tell our 5-year-old that his shoes won't turn blue just because he is upset and he shouldn't throw a fit over something he can't change. This would have upset our son further, not made him stop fussing. I feel like sometimes kids have very big and valid feelings but might not know how to express that in a constructive way. I prefer to take the silly approach for the smaller issues. My kids respond positively to it and it works. I don't use it for every situation, but on smaller issues, I feel like it's fine. I have tried not to say it around my husband as he doesn't like it. The kids love it, and the oldest will sometimes even ask me to say it even if he's not upset, so I can't always avoid it even when he is there. I might be the jerk because it's clear my husband really doesn't like the phrase. Am I the jerk because I haven't stopped saying, "What's the story, macaroni?"
All right, folks, what do you think of that one?
Not the jerk. Opie's husband does not have some deep-seated fear of macaroni that, or anything. Like, there's no valid reason. He just thinks it's childish, but Opie is talking to literal children. Not that, like, it would be wrong if Opie was saying this to adults, but, like, their oldest is 5.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's really what this boils down to, is that these are children, and children have funny phrases like this, right? And for him to have this very narrow view of like, well, your shoes aren't blue, so there's nothing that you can do about it, is just, at a matter of factly, not a creative solution, right?
No, it's not. And it just kind of sets kids up. I think it's not very helpful. Like, it doesn't help kids address their feelings in the moment. It encourages them to bottle them up.
Well, and it doesn't give them constructive ways to address their feelings, right? And so the solution that OP came up with putting stickers on the shoes, I think was a really good and creative solution, right? Because it allowed the kid to feel like they had agency in the world to address their feelings and even change the world in some way, right? And I think giving kids the opportunities to change the world even in small ways, or change their environment in small ways, helps them to be more creative and helps them to come up with better problem-solving solutions in the future.
And also helps them feel better about, like, they have a say in the world and it's not just everything being thrown at them.
Yeah. And then on top of that, like the whole "what's the story, macaroni," I think that it's just a fun little phrase, and I don't think that there's any harm in doing that. And I think one of the things that that OP addresses in the comments rather, is that her husband is afraid that they'll, grow up to say these kinds of things, right? Which, I mean, I think kids are silly inherently, right? And kids say funny things all the time. Something that amuses a 5-year-old is far different than something that amuses a 30-year-old, right? Right.
But I mean, even if they did grow up to say, "What's the story, macaroni?" Like, it's just kind of like a quirky, silly thing, It's not, it doesn't make them bad people.
Well, and another thing that happened with OP's husband is he grew up in a really strict household, right? And so I think one of the things is that he has a very narrow view of how the world works and doesn't, and may even still be imparting some of this abuse onto his children, right?
Well, and maybe it's time he goes into therapy to deal with his childhood trauma, instead of trying to inflict it on the next generation.
Yeah.
Because there are times where you cannot fix situations. There are some situations that there is just no making better, but most of the time there are little things we can do
Yeah.
to at least, make things feel better in the moment.
So in the comments, it's revealed that OP's husband doesn't believe in therapy. So what do you feel about that?
I think that's a really unfortunate approach. I mean, and it's one of those things where it's just kind of like a non-starter, because when you have someone who needs therapy but doesn't believe in therapy, what do you even do? So I guess the alternative is to I just not let him traumatize the kids. I mean, not that it's, like, I don't know. I just feel like his way of handling things is not the best. Just telling the kids, just buck it up and deal with it, is not helpful or constructive, even for adults. I think because his idea is he doesn't want the kids to grow up, not knowing how to be adults. But, you have different approaches for small children and for older children and for adults. But even, just going to an adult and be like, well, you can't change things, just deal with it. Like, as an older teen and an adult, when people would say that to me, like, it would always feel very dismissive and hurtful. Like, well, that's just how the world works. And it'd be like, no, the world doesn't have to work this way. We can change things, and we're actively choosing not to change things.
Well, it's like the old expression that life's not fair, right? And
I hated that so much.
And people say, oh, well, life's not fair. But the thing is this, life isn't fair, but that doesn't stop us from making the world a more equal place. And it's important that we take steps to make the world more fair. And yeah, life isn't fair. And sometimes there are situations where you aren't going to be able to change the outcome of a situation. And you do have to deal with what you're given, right? Sometimes you're dealt a bad hand, and that's just the reality of it. But that doesn't mean that you and other people can't work towards making things a better place in general, right?
Right. And too often these are used when there's injustice in the world. And it's like, well, that's just how the world works. And like there are some things like, we can't help it if, we get sick or die or things like that, but everyday injustices, we can work toward making the world more fair and more just.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Refusing to Speak to My Boyfriend After He Let His Niece Play with My Littlest Pet Shop Collection? I'm a 21-year-old female, and I've been collecting the Littlest Pet Shop figures for as long as I can remember. Some of these are rare and worth quite a bit, but beyond the monetary value, they also have a lot of sentimental value to me. I've taken really good care of them over the years and have them displayed on my shelf in a room. Strictly off limits to anyone. I've made it clear to my boyfriend, a 26-year-old male, how much these figures mean to me. A few days ago, I was out running some errands. My boyfriend's sister came over with her 6-year-old daughter. When I got back home, I walked into the living room to find his niece playing with my entire Littlest Pet Shop collection. They were scattered all over the floor and obviously damaged. I freaked out and I asked my boyfriend what was going on. He casually replied that his niece wanted to play with them, and he didn't think that it was a big deal. I was furious, but I didn't want to make a scene in front of his niece, so I took a deep breath and I asked him to come to the other room to talk privately. Once we were alone, I calmly explained that my Littlest Pet Shop collection wasn't just a bunch of toys, it was something that I had worked hard to build and maintain over the years, and some of the pieces were rare and had sentimental value. I reminded him that I had made it clear in the past that no one was allowed to touch them, especially without asking first. He didn't seem to get it, and he shrugged and said, "She's a kid. She doesn't understand that stuff. It wasn't like she was trying to ruin them." I was still upset, but I tried to keep calm. I told him that I understood that his niece didn't mean any harm, but that didn't change the fact that some of my figures were damaged. At that point, I went back into the living room to assess the damage. To my horror, some of the Littlest Pet Shop figures had been drawn on with permanent marker. They were ruined. My heart sank. and I couldn't help but feel a mix of anger and sadness. When I showed my boyfriend the damage, he just said that it's not the end of the world and that it was childish to own toys like that anyways. That comment really stung. He completely dismissed how much these figures meant to me, not just as a collection, but as something that I've cherished since I was young. I wasn't just upset about the financial loss or the damage, though it was a huge part of it. It was the fact that he had brushed off my feelings like it didn't matter at all. I'd made it clear to him before how much they meant to me, and he acted like I was being unreasonable. I tried to explain again how much effort I've put into preserving them over the years, and how his niece's actions, while unintentional, caused permanent damage, but he still didn't get it. He just kept saying, "They're toys, not something serious, you're overreacting." At that point, I was too angry and hurt to keep talking. I walked away and I haven't spoken to him since. I just can't get over how little he seemed to care about my feelings and the fact that he allowed something that I've explicitly told him that was off limits to be damaged. His sister found out I was upset and messaged me saying that I was overreacting and making her daughter feel bad. She said things like, "It's not like they're priceless works of art. Kids don't know any better." While I get that kids don't understand these things, that doesn't change the fact that my boundaries were ignored and my property was damaged. My boyfriend thinks that I should just let it go, but I can't help feeling disrespected and hurt. I'm starting to wonder if I'm really overreacting or if I'm justified in my feelings of this upset. So, am I the jerk for refusing to speak to him and being upset about my ruined collection? Edit, I want to say thank you to everyone that is taking time to comment. I'm reading all the replies and taking the advice that you gave me very seriously. I have decided that I will speak to my boyfriend about compensating me for most of the damages, and depending on how that conversation goes, I will probably break up with him either way. I can't get over the way that he acted and took no accountabilities for his actions. Thanks again. All right, folks, what do you think?
Definitely not the jerk here. And honestly, this feels kind of malicious to me. Because it sounds like OP had these toys in her bedroom.
Yeah.
You know, she had her collection somewhere where it shouldn't have been in the 6-year-old's line of sight to begin with. So either he was letting the kid run rampant around the apartment in OP's own personal bedroom, which isn't okay, or he did not like this collection to begin with and saw this as a way to kind of like get rid of it.
Yep.
By, you know, oh, well, my niece just damaged it. Oh, well, what can you do? You don't need toys anyway.
So, if the niece had managed to sneak into the room and grabbed 1 or 2 toys, I might have believed that this was not malicious, right? But the fact that the niece somehow managed to grab OP's entire collection and bring it out.
And who supplied the permanent markers?
Well, and that's another thing, right? It's not like children are born with permanent markers attached to them, right? They had to have found them somehow. And the fact of the matter is that they either weren't paying attention to the kid at all, which is highly doubtful, or they willfully allowed these properties to be damaged, right?
Right. And if they are paying so little attention to the kid that she can drag out an entire set of Littlest Pet Shop figurines and permanent markers, they shouldn't be like looking after kids to begin with.
Yeah. So I believe that this was a malicious effort. And I think that if OP's boyfriend doesn't compensate her before she breaks up with him, that she should take him to small claims court and sue him for that, or maybe if it's not something that can be covered in small claims court, take him to court.
Yeah, well, and the figurines may not be as ruined as OP thinks. Littlest Pet Shop figurines, I believe, are plastic. And so there are some types of solutions, like I think rubbing alcohol can help take off permanent marker. You would want to test like on a small patch beforehand to make sure it doesn't take off the paint as well. But there might be solutions too. So like if there are some that OP really values and wants to preserve, the permanent marker may be able to be taken off.
Yeah, and I know that some people do toy restorations, so it might cost some money to have toy restoration done on them, but there are probably ways of at least recovering some of the value of the toys. And yeah, I think that this is just a really terrible position that the boyfriend put OP in, and I just feel that this was malicious. I don't see any other logical way that this could have been anything but a malicious, concerted effort to ruin her toys. And because he would have been upset, or he would have been, saying, apologizing or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
well, his total dismissal shows that he doesn't care for OP. He just wanted this collection gone, and he doesn't matter how much it hurts OP because he didn't like it. He thought it was childish.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber has permanently disappeared. She's never coming back. Never coming back.
What's my name? Any questions?
Yes, what's the joke?
Why did the minnows cross the ocean?
Oh, the minnows crossed the ocean because they were in a school field trip, and they were in a school, and then that's why they did it.
To get to the other tide.
Oh, the other tide. That makes sense. And I have the special guest tea. I have matcha again. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much to Amber for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Happy Friday, Junior.
Happy Friday, Junior. We have a live stream tomorrow. We hope to see you then. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance. And please have it as though you are David S. Pumpkins.
I may be here to scare the heck out of you, but you know what's even scarier?
Being dressed as a hot dog?
Parents using their kids as props in their own little fantasies.
That is pretty scary. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.